Hello, this is Susan Poss at Spartanburg Community College. I'm working in section 5.3, and this is our introduction to polynomials. I'm going to split this section up into 3 videos, and this is the first. So we're going to start with some words, some definitions that you need to be familiar with. The first word that we're going to talk about here is the word term. Very important word. A term can be one of 3 things. It can be a single constant, and you see I've got some examples there of constants. 5, -6, 1.35, -2/3. Or it can be a single variable, and so here are some examples of single variables, x, -y, m. Or, and more commonly, it will be this third type. It will be a group of coefficients and variables held together by multiplication. So you'll be seeing terms that look like this: 3 times x, -1/5 times y, 2 times a times b, -4m. So those are examples of terms. So the next word that's important here is the word coefficient. A coefficient is a multiplier. And when we're working in algebra, you're going to generally be interested in the numerical coefficient. So when we look at this term 3xy, the 3 is the numerical coefficient. When we look at the term x over 3, I need to remind you that there is a 1 sitting in front of this x. And so the coefficient, the numerical coefficient, becomes 1/3. And then the final one out here to the right, I sort of squeezed it in here on the side. If we have the term x, we need to remember that there's a multiplier of 1 sitting in front of that x, and therefore the coefficient of that single x term is 1. All right, so the next word in our list, vocabulary list here, is polynomials. Polynomial is a finite sum of terms, can be added together or subtracted. In the form a, some multiplier, that would be the coefficient. The base x is the variable raised to some power n, where the coefficient a must be a real number and n must be a whole number. That means the exponent must be a whole number. So out here to the side, I've defined what whole numbers look like. Here's your set of whole numbers. It begins with the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ... all the way out to infinity. And you can see that these are not fractions, they are not negative, they are not decimals. So these are whole units, including 0. So the exponents then on these polynomials must be positive, and they must not be a fraction. So I've got a few examples here that are not polynomials. This first one, 5x to the -2, is not a polynomial because that -2 is not a whole number. Same thing here, that 1/7 is not a whole number. And you cannot have variables in denominators because that would then bring us back to a negative exponent. We learned all that in some earlier chapters here. All right, so I hope that helps. So there are 3 types of polynomials, and these are words that you may be familiar with. The monomial is a polynomial that has just a single term, one term, and of course the prefix mono there means 1. Monorail, monocycle, all meaning 1. So here are some examples of some monomials. Notice that this denominator is a number, it's not a variable, so that allows it to still be a monomial. And of course, these exponents are understood to be positive 1s in here. So we're all okay on the definition of what is actually a polynomial. The next term is binomial. And of course, a binomial is going to have 2 terms, bi meaning 2, separated by addition or subtraction. So here are some examples of binomials. You'll see all of them have 1, 2 terms, 1, 2 terms. 1, 2 terms, 1, 2 terms. And you can see there's sometimes they're connected by addition and sometimes they're connected by subtraction. And the third word here that we need to be familiar with is trinomial. That means 3 terms, of course, prefix tri meaning 3. And here's some examples of trinomials. Here's the first term, second term, third term, first term, second term, third term, first term, second term, third term. And you can see in here the separators between terms are always the operations of either addition or subtraction to separate those terms. And of course the umbrella word here, the word polynomial, I call it the umbrella word, meaning all of these others fit underneath it. But that prefix poly means many. So when you say polynomial, it can be 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, 5 terms, 4 terms, whatever. It's just kind of a general catch-all. So that's a good place to stop with our definitions.